I never had lived in the city before. I had wanted to for a long time, so I did feel uneasy about being there because I didn't know what it was going to be like.
Below us and then to the sides, every neighbor is completely different. We all still are able to communicate with one another, even though it's we're all totally different cultures and totally different people and backgrounds.
I pretty much have grown in a predominantly black atmosphere, growing up. So it was just good to actually get a taste or an idea of a different type of culture.
Something really great about the Urban Neighbor program is that it just calls you to live somewhere that you maybe wouldn't otherwise live and encounter people that you maybe wouldn't otherwise encounter. I've learned to live further outside of my comfort zone in a way that allows me to learn from them and to grow in my perspective of the world.
It's kind of taken me out of a shell that I didn't know I had.
Growing up in the suburbs, there was kind of this idea that people in poverty kind of put themselves there and don't do much to get out. And there's a family of 5 kids and a single mom lived below me, and seeing how hard she worked providing for her family, and she was in a tough spot and she did all that she could. The trust that I was able to develop with them, where I could take her kids anywhere and she knew that they were going to get taken care of, and just the very reciprocal relationship, because we would do stuff for each other, was pretty cool. People work a lot harder than the outside world thinks.
I think in that story that we call the Good Samaritan, what Jesus is doing is he's completely eliminating this category of other. Because if you think of who the Samaritans were, not just in this category of other, as in not being Jewish, but they were in this category of the hated other. And what Jesus is doing in that story is he's completely upending this whole hierarchy, radically saying there is no other. There is just neighbor.
There's a complete reciprocity. We don't have anything over the other. We need each other. We teach ourselves not to say those people. If we ever say those people, we're not being a neighbor. And so as soon as you see yourself and your neighbor and you, it's a completely different relationship. And I think that's what makes the place you live home.
The best way to learn is to be around people who have a different experience than you do. When we don't embrace other cultures and people who are different than you, you miss the opportunity to see some beautiful things that the world has to offer.
What is the good life? Is it the place where you go for sanctuary to get away from everything that's challenging or stressful? Or is it the place that you bring peace, that you bring healing, that you bring tranquility, that you bring generosity? Not being the solver, but being the servant.
The design and purpose for the Urban Neighbor Program is to provide space for fulfilling the greatest commandment, what Jesus told us after being asked, Lord, what must I do to be saved? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, somebody that is vastly different than me, that I may not understand, but to strive to love that person in a way that Jesus compels me to. That's the goal. That's the idea.